Ijaz, as we see the events unfolding in Palestine as well as in Israel, I think in both places realignments in politics are taking place. So you have the issue of, you have the case of both Fatah and Hamas coming together in Cairo just recently, and then you have, of course, what's happened post-elections in Israel. So what would your take be on both these sets of events?
I think this coming together of Hamas and Fatah is temporary and forced on both of them by the consequences of the Israeli invasion of Gaza recently in two ways. One, on the side of Palestine Authority, that war and the outcome of that war has made the Palestine Authority completely irrelevant. It has led to a situation where Hamas has not only strengthened its positions in Gaza and added to its prestige inside Gaza, but has enormously gained on the West Bank.
As well.
So that now you can say that it's not only the elections of 2006 or something, but that it is well on its way to building a permanent majority in Palestine. Mahmoud Abbas's Palestine Authority basically just remained passive while the Palestinians were being subjected to the worst killings of the Palestinians that we have seen in decades. That's one. The other is that Palestine Authority government is really illegal now twice over. One, the dismissal of Hania and the appointment of Fayyad as the prime minister was illegal enough. And now Abbas's term as a president has actually run over, but still he clings on to the presidency. So neither in the realm of law, nor in the realm of politics, nor in the realm of public popularity, nor in the realm of military action is Palestine Authority relevant anymore. On the other hand, the Hamas won that war politically, but the ravages of the Palestine society as a whole in Gaza are so great that having a breathing space for many months or perhaps a couple of years to rebuild at least some of what has been destroyed, it needs to have some sort of a peace with Palestine Authority so that reconstruction in Gaza can actually come into being. I don't see this as a long-term coming together reconciliation between the two.
So effectively the reason for this, if Gaza has to be rebuilt, then they need the legitimacy of this quote-unquote unity by which they can present themselves as unified Palestinian society, as it were, asking for aid and legitimize whatever is coming in, and not be treated as complete outcasts, which is what the Hamas administration.
One more point. One of the fundamental objectives of the Israeli establishment has been to provoke a civil war between Hamas and Palestine Authority, not occasional fighting here and there, but a pitched civil war, enduring civil war in which they basically destroy each other.
At one point it appeared that the Palestinian Authority would actually ride in, as it were, behind the tanks of the Israeli forces.
That was the plan.
That was the plan. But I think the kind of resistance, A, on the ground, and B, the kind of upsurge that was taking place on the West Bank made it very difficult for the Palestinian Authority to really play that role.
Absolutely. And it was a plan in which Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Israel, and the Palestine Authority were involved. This is something that Palestinians know. And one of the reasons why Palestinian Authority has lost all kinds of prestige and honor on the West Bank is because it was seen that this is the most open collusion with the Israelis that you can have.
While it's true that the Palestinian Authority, and particularly Mahmoud Abbas, is actually completely delegitimized as a result of what they have done before and after the war and during the war, of course. But at the same time, Fatah still remains a political force on the West Bank. It's not just Mahmoud Abbas in that sense. Do you see a realignment of Palestinian forces by which different sections of Fatah could come in? This rump administration could go, and it could, in that sense, pave a way for a long-term united front, not just a reconciliation. I don't think that reconciliation is really the term, but a kind of united front emerge which just takes on the task of fighting for the Palestinian rights?
I think you're absolutely right. Fatah has always itself been something of a united front among various tendencies. And the crisis between, the sort of tension between these forces have been such, one was prepared for some sort of a possibility of a split soon after Arafat passed away. The Israelis managed to prevent that uprising against Mahmoud Abbas by putting a very large number of Palestinians in prison, including some of the most distinguished members of the Fatah. Fatah has always had that, patriotic tendency, which is not part of the bureaucratic corruption and so on. And one hopes that there actually is effectively a split in the Fatah, whether it's an open split or whatever, but reorganization of some kind, so that Hamas and that section of the Fatah can actually build a solid united front instead of instigating the kind of civil war that the Israelis have gone to.
It's also interesting that 12 sections have met in Cairo that include even the People's Party of Palestine,
right,
which is really the Communist Party, and also other sections. It's not been just Fatah and Hamas. It's really been a lot of other political forces which seem to have come together, which I hope, I don't know, which I hope would give that momentum of keeping everybody together at least for the next 2-3 years and riding over the crisis of legitimacy of Palestinian Authority, which is re-elections which has to take place now.
That's a very interesting and important point that you're making, Prabir, because a number of these parties that you're talking about, PFLP, the People's Party and so on, number of these groupings, as one may call them, are deeply dissatisfied with the Mahmoud Abbas establishment. They stayed on that side in order to protect the PLO as an organization and as a historic representative of the Palestinian people, hoping that sometime in the future these gaps between one section represented by Hamas and the other part of Palestine represented by all these groups will somehow at some point. So I think they have been waiting out their time. They have stayed under the PLO not because they like Mahmoud Abbas, but because there is a certain idea that the PLO as an organization has a legitimacy which you don't want to give up so easily.
Don't want to hand it over to Mahmoud Abbas and others.
That's right.